Okay.
Hey.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Critters, except for it's on Saturday night, so we're going to call it Evening with the Critters.
No coffee involved.
Sometimes it's cocktails with the critters.
And that's going to happen later.
But my name is Laura Joseph, owner of the Animal Behavior Center. We're an international educational center teaching people across the world through our live streams about living, loving, and learning with animals using applied behavior analysis and positive reinforcement.
You have that memorized very well.
I've been saying it every morning for every Sunday morning for over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I am here with returning guest Deb Jones.
Hey everybody.
Yes.
Happy to be back.
And we are at the 4th annual Fenzi Dog Sports Academy training camp.
Correct.
Yes.
We are at camp.
We
Adult
are at
camp.
Yes.
It's a good thing. It's
Yes.
a lot of fun. We're having a good time.
So I asked Deb last night if she'd like to go live with me again, and she said absolutely.
Of course. Anytime.
So Deb
Anytime we're together.
Deb is one of the presenters here.
That's why I look so tired right now.
Yeah, and I just came out of one of her 2-hour labs
Yeah.
on focus.
Focus.
Yes.
Hard to focus for 2 hours.
Yeah. Hey everybody. Hey.
Hi,
Thanks for
people.
joining
Of
us.
course we have to do this and then we'll go in there. Hi there.
Yeah. So you guys remember Deb? So you've seen Deb at least. They walked away.
They left.
Yes.
Everybody left.
Some people
when
are
they
gonna
found out we were going live, they got shy and left us.
Well, we just won't tell the next ones that come up.
No, exactly. We won't tell them they're on live stream.
Hey everybody. So we're here in Wilmington, Ohio, and this is the 4th annual.
Right.
So it's at a different place every year, correct?
That's correct.
Because I was reading people's past t-shirts.
Yes, all our t-shirts come from different years. We always have a camp shirt. We started in 2014, and we were in Pennsylvania, close to Philadelphia, and it was a smaller facility, and so we discovered there that there was enough interest that we needed more space, a lot more space pretty quickly. The second year, where did we go? I'm so tired,
I saw one that
remember.
said Missouri.
Oh yeah, St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah, St. Louis, thank you.
That's
St.
the
Louis
only-
at Purina Farms. So Purina Farms is set up for animal events, for dog events, specifically, and that was a very nice place to have it, central to the country. So we could get lots of people from all over to come in. Last year we had it in Oregon, Albany, Oregon.
Oh yeah.
And we
okay.
were a little worried that you get out so far on the coast and we're not going to get a lot of people, but it was very, very popular.
So every year has it increased?
Oh, it has increased greatly every year. The school itself, Fenzi Dog Sports Academy, which is an online training school, started in 2013 and started out with a handful of instructors and a handful of classes online. Now we have 40 instructors and at least 40 classes every term. Classes start every 2 months, and and they run 6 weeks.
Okay.
So we've gotten trainers in who are really good at what they do in the dog training world, and I try to branch out, and so I have a cat class because I'd like to do some different animals, so I developed a class for cats. I'm always encouraging people who have another species to take like especially a shaping class or something with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had a parrot and a porcupine.
Have you?
In shaping class.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a South American porcupine, and she had this big squishy nose that looked like a marshmallow. You just wanted to squeeze her. But
Let
of
us
course
know if you can hear us.
Of course, I wanted to pet
Stabby Puppy.
Stabby Puppy, yeah.
Pocahontas.
Pocahontas, too.
The African
Yes.
crested porcupine.
This is when puppies are safer than some of the animals that you work
Yes,
with.
yes.
Because we want to grab them and squeeze them.
Right.
It's a bad idea.
You guys remember Pocahontas, the African crested porcupine that was at the Center for Training?
She was cute.
And Deb nicknamed her Stabby Puppy.
Yeah.
And you also said it's like babies with knives.
Yeah, it was, because she was so playful and young and cute, and you just really wanted to grab her and hug her, which as a human, that's just what we want to do. And
Right.
we know that's
You
a
got to
bad
touch
thing.
everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we do. We are very touchy-feely. And we just did that last night. One of our instructors has a puppy. I'm like, give me the puppy. Like, let's hold the puppy right now. It's like we just can't keep our hands off it. And so any of the animals, I'd like to do that, but I don't want to get hurt.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we couldn't do her. But I do encourage people, if they have another species, please feel free to take one of my classes. I would love it.
Yeah.
I always enjoy it, and we can adjust.
I'm going to
anything.
take one of your classes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So
Good.
you're the one that suggested that I come here. So Fenzi Dog Sports Academy. I mean, I was just like, well, I'm not into sports, but I started looking through the syllabus, and I was just like, that can pertain. That I've found. So we're at the end of our second day, and there's what, 4 or 5 people presenting at
5 at a time. 5 in each time slot, which is about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yep.
So we have 2 in the morning, and then lunch, and then 2 in the afternoon.
And it's just like just right.
No, it's
Well, for me.
For you. For some of us, it's like, oh my gosh, we're exhausted. But it's fun exhaustion. It's good exhaustion. So yeah, we have variety. We have a lot of variety. Of course, in dog sports, we have obedience, rally, agility, and nose work. And those are the 4 main sports that we cover here. We have instructors that are doing all of those, multiple instructors in each of those things. So if you're interested in competition dog sports, that makes sense. But then we also have a lot of foundation type classes and a lot of more general type sessions. So that's what, like, I just did a focus session. And focus can apply, it definitely applies to performance events, but it also applies just to getting an animal to work with me to train, so they want to train.
Well, I can see how I just came out of your focus lab. That would work with the person who just wants to take their dog for a walk at the park.
Oh yeah. You just want to be able to do something and not have your dog constantly distracted, have them paying some sort of attention to you. So it's pretty basic. It's whether or not you ever think you're going to show, you could still do something like that. Or like yesterday with the shaping lab that we did yesterday.
Yes, that was fun.
That applies to just becoming a better trainer. No
and
matter what the
that
species.
helps focus on mechanics.
Yes.
And I
You were funny.
miserably. I was like, there goes my beads.
It's not as easy as it seems. It's like we think training somehow, we don't think about all the little physical steps that are required when we train an animal. The simple thing of, how am I going to give you the food? How am I going to supply it? Where am I going to keep the food until I give it to you? And as we see, where you have things and how you manage them determines whether your animal can learn well or not.
Sure.
So we want to make this smooth process of, I'm marking something, which means I'm telling you did it right, and now I have to get your food reinforcer to you. So I use little shot glasses and cups and beads.
With me, with very long fingers.
You have big hands, and we got a little, and purposely made it challenging.
Yes, it was.
So that I could have made it easier, but what's the fun in that?
There's a lot of censorship going on under our table.
Yeah, and so just as simple as move the bead from here to here as fast as you can. What happens? We spill all the beads.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're in a hurry. And we do that with our dogs too. We try to get a treat out and we drop them all. And so now we've got, oh, do I try to get it back? What do I do?
You're fighting with your dog to pick up the treat. Who's going to pick up the treats the fastest?
And that's kind of messed up that's really messed up the flow and your dog's ability to concentrate. And I think I learned a lot, I know I learned a lot from you about animals that you have to feed carefully. You can't just kind of here, because if you do that, they're going to start getting frantic and grabby.
Sure.
And it's one thing when a dog gets grabby, it's bad enough, but when a cockatoo gets grabby,
well, and that's
or a
when
pig gets grabby, it's scary and painful.
Where pace can be a reinforcer for an undesired behavior.
Yeah.
And you can
I'm
see,
still learning that lesson.
You can see that with cockatoos. And we could see, like in the last workshop with Milo, how it was the mechanics on pigs can't lift their heads very high, and a lot of times people
treats coming down.
Yeah, and it's also a prey animal, so it can only see out of it's seeing out. Yep. So it's sitting there going like this, trying to get the food, and the frustration level was rising.
Yeah, we saw that I think the last couple times that I was out.
The last 2 workshops. Yeah.
In trying to feed them, if you're not right on with him, and you don't get the food right in his mouth when he expects it, and he has to start looking around for it, then he starts to just try to grab because he doesn't know where it's going to come from. And then you get like, I'm pulling my, you want to pull your hand back because it's like, I don't want you to bite me.
Right.
And so people get scared and nervous, and that just perpetuates that problem. So that's what we were kind of troubleshooting and talking about here just before we started, was how to feed him in a consistent way that's safe for everybody.
Yep. And that's very consistent, predictable.
Exactly.
I don't have to guess where it's coming from.
So I really think feeding him in a container rather than from a hand, because our hands are always moving around.
Yeah.
And they're never going to be in the exact right place. I actually have the same problem with my cat. I can't feed my cat from my fingers. And I actually think it's something about when the food gets too close to his mouth, he can't see it anymore.
Okay.
So he just
that
grabs
was kind of like with Pocahontas the porcupine.
Yeah, they can't see it, so we were using those long tongs, tweezers, to feed. And with the cat, it's the same thing. And It would be nice to be able to actually give them the treat in their mouth sometimes, but not if you're too worried about it. It makes you
nervous.
Yeah, because then you're going to move it all around. It's not going to be a smooth delivery. And you
And
think, how
then-
hard is it to give an animal a treat? It's really hard.
Yeah, and then if you're pairing that frustration with your training sessions, now you're poisoning the cue. And that's what I was concerned with Milo is we've had 2 workshops where things didn't go as smooth as planned, but I was just like, am I pairing
Frustration.
people and workshops with, so
Yeah, so it's going to be an important thing to think about for the next time you get in that situation. You're going to have to change that context, make things definitely smoother and less frustrating for him, so that he goes, oh, this isn't so bad. This is a good thing. Because if he sees a group of people standing here watching me, means something is going to make me nervous or upset or frustrated.
Yeah.
Definitely don't want that. So it's a lot to think about, just how we're going to feed that animal, whatever that animal is. How we're going to provide the reinforcer smoothly. And of course I set up all these little things that I knew would be hard, like a little tiny spoon that you're supposed to move your beads with. Well, it's eye-hand coordination and doing everything with both hands. We often don't think about that. Which hand am I going to feed with? Probably your dominant hand. But what if my animal, I want him on my left side and I don't want him to move forward? I probably am going to use my left hand.
Right.
So I need to have, okay, where am I going to keep the food? And when I get the food, how am I going to feed with the hand that's not quite so good at the mechanics of this? So being able to go back and forth and switch around, that kind of thing, is real important too, I think. So that's what, a lot of those exercises were meant to do to start with.
Yeah, and a lot of it, some of them were really focused on timing. I never get to be the animal in the training game.
Well, no.
Yesterday I was, and I was like, yes.
See, most people do
part.
Most people do not want to be the animal. They don't want to be the subject.
Oh,
they want to be the trainer.
I want to be the subject.
I do too. I like it. I always volunteer for it if I'm like at a seminar. So I says somebody wants to do this game. I'm like, me. I'll be. I don't. Most people get self-conscious and nervous, but I'm like, I want that experience.
If you're the subject, you can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Just like what we say, where your animal never does anything wrong.
Exactly.
If your animal isn't giving you the behavior you want, you better stop and reassess what's going on with the trainer.
Yeah, and I said that in my focus session today too. We say that in a lot of contexts.
Yeah.
It's the trainer. It's not your animal that has the problem ever. It's the fact that we haven't communicated with them clearly and consistently about what we do want. And so, if my animal is going off the rails and doing the wrong thing, it's because I haven't trained them properly. I haven't done the right thing there.
And one of the biggest things I see with people is when they're getting frustrated, they're assuming their animal should know something, or they're taking too big of steps in the shaping process.
Yeah, assuming and should not be involved in animal training, because that always leads you down a bad path. But mostly it's lumping. It's that idea that I didn't split it down small enough. You can always make something smaller. People say, no, I can't, and the answer is always, oh yeah,
yes,
you can.
can.
We can make it easier. we can get a much more doable version of the behavior that I can start to reinforce. And that's, of course, a lot of what shaping is. How can I split it down? I have my big goal, my target behavior, but I can't wait for that. I want my animal to jump in this box and sit in it. Okay, if I wait for that, that's not going to happen. Well, I might, but nobody else.
Right.
So what's my first step? And a lot of people, it will be touch the box. It's like, no, that's still a pretty big step. How about look in the direction of the box? How about that for a first step? Look in the direction, move towards it a little bit.
Which kind of was your first lab on Friday, which was with the dumbbells.
Oh,
which people
retrieving.
were having. Yep, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Where
I forgot by now what was it. I've had so much stimulation.
I was going to say, there's one of the classes I took.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the retrieve class.
But the importance, like with putting the box on the ground, remove it like you did with the dumbbell, take it out of the environment, so when it comes back in the environment, they're more likely, hey, there's something new in the environment, then you can bridge and
if they're not
reinforce.
looking at the thing you want them to look at, Yeah, we don't just leave it hanging out there. Take it away, present it again. They'll probably eventually go, "What's that?" And you go, "Oh yeah, that thing is good. Let's reinforce that. You're looking at that." And then we can get you moving towards it. And then we can get you nose touching it. And with the dumbbell, of course, our goal is take it in your mouth and hold it. And that sounds simple, but that is a hard task to teach.
I was listening to you even saying I'll probably have the terminology wrong, but like the size of the rod?
The bit, or the bar.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bar and then there are ends that are called the bells. Right? So yeah, if it's too big, they can't close their mouth over it properly.
And it tends to roll?
And they roll it around like a big piece of gum or something.
So there's a question for that. If it's the bells are too close, is that an aversive?
It can be,
okay.
Because of course dogs have whiskers, and so that would be uncomfortable to have something pushing on them if it's too tight. So it has to be the right length, but not too big, so it doesn't slide around, but not too small so that it doesn't pinch with the bells. And then you have to look at the size of these bells. Are they too big? Are they going up into the animal's eyes? Because depending on the shape of your face, your pug is going to be different than your border collie. Because, a smashed face then means we need a much longer bar and smaller ends in order to be able to pick up. And I would think if you think about any other creature and what's easiest for them to pick up, like with Milo, I've actually seen pigs taught to retrieve. But what tends to happen there is, and I actually watched this occur at a zoo where I watched some training, was if the dumbbell gets down on the ground, they start pushing it and rooting, and that instinctive drift overwhelms them.
Hey, you want to come sit with us? She's having a conversation and I'm crashing it. I shouldn't.
Of course. No, you should. This is Amy Cook. Amy is one of the instructors here too. She is.
You're on
and
Coffee
she's
with
so
the Critters.
Introverted.
I'm what?
You're on Coffee with the Critters.
Coffee
Oh,
with the
is that
Critters.
what this is?
There's no
stream,
coffee. Yeah.
I want some coffee.
Yeah, we're going to have alcohol soon. It'll be better. Amy, tell them what did you teach so far?
I'm coming over here.
Okay, yeah, that'd be easier probably.
Coming up here.
Okay.
What did I teach? I taught play without food or toys.
That is a hard thing.
It's not simple.
Very hard thing. That's why people have to take classes
It's not simple if you only think of it that way. But when I make analogies to other kinds of play that you do without food or toys, like with children, with other people, we don't immediately
true.
bring out
You
an
don't give
object to interact over.
Yeah.
We maybe mock wrestle or do a little tickle or play a little. People remember that part of themselves.
That's
and
a good
it does bring it
explanation.
out of them. And so I taught that.
And why is play important? Like I'm interviewing her now. And why does play matter? That's what you do. I mean, that is your thing. Is the play way is what it's called.
It's called the play way, and it's good for a lot of things, but the first thing I think of to tell you is that play produces or promotes oxytocin. Oxytocin is a bonding sort of chemical and experience, and it really can help counter stress and the cortisol that comes from that and all the tight bodies that come from that, and it can just relax you and make you bond and feel better with the person that you're with. And secondarily, it's super fragile.
I was thinking what, right?
It's super califragilistic.
Okay.
And the power in a fragile interaction, as opposed to the powerful ones we use to reinforce dogs, is that it disappears the second something goes wrong inside the dog or in the environment.
Okay.
And when it's fragile like that, and then you're doing it and it does disappear, you've got an immediate indication that your dog has changed how they feel.
Ah, so if you can't play suddenly.
You can't play suddenly.
Something's happened.
Or you normally play well, but you get here and you try and dog's like, I don't think so. You're like, are you all right? Because you don't seem okay to me. Whereas many dogs will eat in all of or many of the environments, and therefore it doesn't tell you that your dog is starting to go off a little bit how they feel.
Because, and like humans, when we're stressed, we still eat.
We can
that
still
doesn't
eat.
change anything.
Right.
We usually eat because we're stressed.
Exactly.
There you go. But we can lose our relaxation, we can lose our laughter, we can lose our sense of humor, we can lose because we start thinking about where we are and getting a little tense. And when your good friend comes over and can tell that you don't feel quite right, maybe offers the thing that helps you feel better, whatever it is. For dogs it'll be play, but for us it could be a lot of different things. Just shake it off. It helps us get rid of it without hiding it. Whereas a tug might help us shake it off, but it'll also hide it, because a dog can say, I can just focus on the tug and I'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's not
especially
true.
your higher drive dogs.
Your higher drive dogs will dump all of it
that
into
stress into the play, so then they get even more frantic.
And I'm not looking at the thing because I'm just tugging.
Yeah.
And I think that lies to us about how close we can get to things or what environments we can choose because our dogs seem okay. But when play is your tool, it won't lie to you because it'll disappear when your dog has a problem. And then The best time to solve a problem, you know when? It's when it first started.
Right.
It's when it just first crept in.
Right.
Then you have a fighting
the sooner
chance.
you know,
You have a fighting
better
chance
you
of
are.
solving it. When do you give antibiotics? You do wait till the infection has been sitting there for forever?
Yep.
You're like the very first thing. So you can solve it better. So I try to teach people to
Awesome.
play that way
Yes.
so they can have these new tools.
It's,
Yeah.
it really is fascinating.
What else? What other? Have you only done just the one?
I taught the play session and I taught a judging pressure session, which is kind of a straight up skills one of teach a dog how to solve the problem of someone approaching when they're working, which is, it's just a straight up like
So that's kind of after the dog has been trained for the behaviors.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to be going in the ring and there's going to be a judge and stewards. And that's suddenly somebody
it's
else
at
is
least
going to be
different,
close to me.
Yeah.
Sure.
And telling you what to do, and everything's more formal, and it really throws the dogs as well as the handlers.
I was gonna
It makes
say,
handlers nervous to be followed. I follow them around with a clipboard, and
I
I,
was
tell
gonna
them what
say-
to do, and they get nervous, and the dog's like,
Picking up on that.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
And so what I can do is like walk up, and the dog looks at me because I walked up, and I freeze, I kind of wait, and the dog makes a choice to come say hi to me, to look at mom, to do whatever, but only looking at mom's gonna be fun. So as soon as they choose to look at mom, I walk away, they go have a big party. And they learned that, everybody's just a shill. Everybody's some,
Yeah,
all the people of the world, you're all just plants to try to, see if you can get my attention. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not falling for that. I'm going with my mama. It's like that, like we pretend everybody's a big game.
Everybody else doesn't really matter.
Everybody else doesn't matter.
You are kind of meaningless, except in the fact that if I see you, I go, oh, my mom's going to give me a cookie, or my mom's going to
Right.
work
I
with
might as well
me, or
not
play
try
with
to say
me.
hi to you. I might as well connect to
Yeah.
my mother. And
You have no meaning.
it's not my technique. It's just a kind of a basic distraction proofing and pressure proofing
Okay.
stuff.
Yes.
It's just basic judging pressure.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
It's
nice.
super fun. And then I have 2 lectures tomorrow. No more working.
Wow. Oh, more lectures.
What are you doing tomorrow?
You're doing one at the end.
Goodness.
You're doing the.
What am I doing?
Remote.
Remote reinforcement.
Yep.
So working with the devices like the pet tutor and the treat and train.
Oh, neat.
On how we can incorporate those and what kind of things we can do with them that are valuable. People get them because they're exciting and they're fun and it's a new thing, and then they don't ever really know what to do with them or how to use them.
Yeah, that's actually me. I have like
Oh,
I have one. I'm always like, I don't know.
I use them.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah, I love them, and I find there's a lot of value. People don't think about like how to introduce it properly and how to incorporate it into more than just people use it for separation or
Right.
something. But there's a lot more you can do to teach behaviors with it, especially distance, of course, and independence. So I'll play around with that. And then the next thing I have is just the handler's choice, which I think is fun because I don't know what I'm going to get. I'll be
I like that.
I forget how many, maybe 10 people. They have 10 minutes each. They come in and they get their 10 minutes, and whatever they want to work on, I work on with them. So I have no clue what that is going to be, or who is going to come in, or what their dog's like. So I feel the pressure to help them now
Yes.
in this moment, which is hard, but it's also the challenge. It's kind of fun for us as instructors to go, wow, can I problem solve that? Now there are problems I can't fix. Well, most of them I can't fix. I can give you a few suggestions, and I can kind of try to put people on the right track. But that's about the best I can do. There are people
Yep.
on there, they're
Uh,
watching.
Eva had a question. Eva had a question. Is it wrong to assume an animal should be able to remember what is expected next in, say, a chain of behaviors that it has repeated numerous times already?
That sounds like a pointed question.
Yeah, it sounds like there's
Sounds
more
like you're having that
context.
problem.
Yeah. That's not a general abstract question.
Right.
And it sounds like there's some context there. Yeah, typically behavior chains are learned.
Yep.
Animals figure out this follows this follows this.
Yep.
If you're trying to purposely teach it and they're stopping or stalling out at a certain point, something about that little aspect of the chain may be unpleasant, may be aversive, maybe they haven't learned it quite as well as you think. You can do something a million times, but if you didn't do it correctly, it doesn't help. So sometimes it's just a little difference in execution of how you do it.
Sure.
Or-
Or maybe it's not, the reinforcer isn't of high enough value.
Yeah, it's not a valuable behavior, so
Or,
I don't reinforce it.
you drive a route all the time, but only because someone tells you, like in the passenger seat's just telling you when to turn, so you're not really doing it yourself. It looks like you are, but you aren't. So the dog's getting a lot of help. I tend to think dogs don't have any memory issues. I wouldn't look to forgetting or memory. I would look
That's
to
the
training
problem.
techniques
Yeah.
or reinforcement contingencies.
Yeah, and even if
or
she's probably
stress.
I bet she's talking about a bird, maybe. She's probably talking
So
about.
are we in bird world
Well,
here?
this is all species.
All
Okay.
species,
But
yep.
she's mostly known for birds.
I see.
So that's who a lot of her students and clients are.
Yeah, I
So-
would
but
think
it's
if
the
there's a
same
break in the
thing.
chain,
They've
it's
got-
not about forgetting or memory.
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
agree.
There's an
overall.
impediment there.
There's some reason
Yeah.
that it's not continuing, and we'd have to break it down and figure out what it is.
Yeah.
But good question,
Yeah.
Eva.
Yes, that is a good
Sure.
question. Chains are fun. I like chains.
Okay. Dog.
Dog.
A dog.
It's a dog.
Oh, it is a dog.
Oh, it is a dog.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
well,
not memory.
We know a little about that.
It's not memory.
We know a thing or two, and it's not memory. It's something.
Something
Yeah,
interfering.
look for there's something else going on there,
yeah,
Eva.
for sure.
Yeah.
Hey,
Good
I
memories.
forgot what it was. So.
So your dinner's at 7.
Oh, dinner's
It's
at
7 o'clock.
Is it really?
Yeah.
How did this time goes by so fast?
I know, when you go live,
This
it goes
day
fast.
has- yeah, this day has been crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they
Anything
always
else?
are here.
Anything else you wanted
what
to
were
say?
we talking about? Let's see. What did I want to say?
Anything
My
about
brain prompt me. I'm like,
I'll
my
let that
brain is
happen.
done.
And I'll take my leave. Great to meet you all.
Yeah,
thanks
I
thanks
will
for
be down shortly.
jumping in?
Yeah, you bet. Great to meet you. Good to see
Yeah,
you guys.
nice to
And
meet
I'll see
you.
y'all some other time.
Thanks,
All right,
Amy.
you're
Thanks for
welcome.
stopping by. Let's see. We were talking about before we got on here. We were talking about our workshop and
Oh,
Didn't
Eva.
mention that.
Yeah, he was saying the problem with attention span.
whoa.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, attention
just
span.
came out of your focus
yeah.
lab.
That takes a lot of groundwork sometimes to get really well.
And a lot of times the rates of reinforcement.
The rate of
aren't-
reinforcement has
is
a lot
not
to do with it because
high
you
enough.
saw how high a rate I was making people
Yep.
use when in the initial stages of training. Eventually we want to get away from that, but we really have to reinforce very strongly. We can't just expect that they will focus or pay attention to something just because we want them to. We have to actually train that as a behavior. And most people don't. That's what I was saying in this last session. We just kind of think it's going to come along with everything else.
And sometimes there's people take too big of steps in that shaping plan where you haven't shaped focus during a distraction, during
Right. It's-
increasing distractions.
Yeah, and it is a criteria. If I want you to pay attention to me or pay attention to doing something, I really have to reinforce that, and I have to hold my criteria that that's part of it. You know, so it's without knowing a whole lot more about the specifics, we couldn't say anything
Too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Like-
it is a common problem. We can say that. That is a very
Yeah.
common issue.
Well, with I remember when I was training Pete the Blue Jay, who fledged in my house,
Oh.
and he was he would have blown your mind.
Oh,
You
my
would have been like, "This is so cool." He came in before fledging and had a deformed foot, so he couldn't be released.
Oh, okay.
So it was Nature's Nursery's Education Blue Jay. They let me bring it home and start training it. The end result was to
Are they corvids? Are they related to
Oh, yeah,
blackbirds?
they're in the corvid
Okay,
family.
Okay.
Yep. So
That's
the
all I
end
knew about
result was to return them back to Nature's Nursery, but have him. We wanted him flying in a particular event.
Okay.
So I had to shape. First, he had to learn how to fly. Then I
That's
had
a
to.
little thing that matters.
Then I had to shape the behavior of him flying to me on cue, and then once he did, like we were talking today, I was in a lab in back chaining. This was,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Then I started shaping different environments. Okay, now fly to my hand in the kitchen where you're comfortable. Fly to my hand in the bathroom where you may never have been before.
Yeah.
Fly, and then I had to start teaching him, you know, stay on my hand. We'd walk into the basement. Stay on my hand. We'd walk into the basement with the lights off.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So yeah, that's all those parts. There are so many parts to anything we do.
Yeah.
And I think we just naturally start to break it down and then put them back together. And I like chains, and I like the whole back chaining idea a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
we back chain a lot of things. We start with the last thing like you and we go on the hand. That's going to be your final behavior. So let's reinforce you just being there a lot before we add getting there, and then add the difficulty levels that are going to come into it, including probably at some point having an audience and you know,
Yeah.
different environments and things. Yep.
So I got to shape this behavior from my kitchen to an event that's probably going to have, you know, 50 people. And
Yeah, it's
plus-
kind of like the dog show where your dog can do it perfectly in your living room, Yet when you get to the show, they don't do anything, or they do it very poorly. And people are sort of surprised by that.
Yeah.
It's like, we've missed some big steps here. Just because my dog can do it well at home doesn't mean that they can do it well in novel environments, especially when we add stress. And that's what Amy works with a lot, is animals who get stressed. So once we add stress, and we do need to add some pressure at some point, but we have to build up the behaviors first so they're strong.
Sure.
And when things fall apart in performance for dogs, it's almost always an emotional anxiety thing. It's not that they don't know the skills. They've been trained, they have the skills. So going back and doing more training while it won't hurt, that's not addressing the emotional problem, the stress or anxiety. We have to figure out how to help them cope with that.
Which you're really big into talking about that.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Always talking about classical conditioning. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. That's more important.
Because then you're shaping that emotional state with the
behavior.
training that you're trying to get.
Yeah, and so you're poisoning. If you're training an animal that's anxious or stressed, even a little bit, you're poisoning the behavior you're trying to train. And it's always going to be paired with being uncomfortable. And they won't want to do it.
You're
so
going to punish the behavior of the animal.
We've
wanting
wasted our time and theirs, and we've taught them that we're not a lot of fun. And we don't respect their emotional states. So that's the last thing we want to do.
So one thing, and I can't remember if you said this in a lab this weekend, was you call your animal to you and they run the other way. That's a pretty obvious sign.
A very obvious.
Especially when you have put the treat pouch
somebody
on.
did.
Your animal
Yeah.
runs the
If
other
your
way.
animal doesn't want, well, and that was the whole thing we did in the focus session. The animal has to want to start your training session. They have to show me they're ready to start. And I don't coerce that or pressure it in any way. I get ready for a session and I wait. And if my animal focuses on me, okay, now we can do things.
Yeah.
So if I get ready to train and my animal leaves, I am in huge trouble. That is not good. I've done something really wrong to get to that point where they don't want to stay and train.
Right.
Yeah.
And isn't that a huge line of communication?
Oh, it is. And we have
people
to
will be
allow
like,
them
I
that.
said, get back here, get back here.
Yeah.
And the dog just keeps running
Yeah,
further,
I
further
did
away.
a session this morning on cooperative care, which is, sorry, I'm coming, which is like grooming and husbandry behaviors. And the big thing there is the animal has the freedom to leave or stop at any moment. So I can't force them when I'm working on this stuff to stay. I can, but I don't want to.
Right.
Because if they leave, that tells me that was too hard for them. That was too unpleasant. So I reinforce whatever I'm doing very highly, but they get to say no. They have the opportunity to say, no, this bothers me too much, and that should tell me, change what you're doing, because what you're doing is too hard.
In training, using positive reinforcement training, you guys, is the best form of communication I have found with any animal.
Yes.
I have done other forms of training when I didn't know any better, and that's what I say, when we know better, we do better.
Exactly.
And that's what we're trying to do.
And even in positive reinforcement, I have to say I've been doing it a long time. I've been doing this about 20 years more. And I've changed a lot even within positive reinforcement to get to the point where the animal is a much more equal partner in the process, and that I think much more carefully about things I used to do that I thought were positive that probably were not. I didn't give them choices a lot of times. I was much more directive with things.
Just because you're sitting there tossing a positive reinforcer doesn't necessarily mean it's a positive
Exactly,
experience.
and it often is not. So sometimes what we have to wake up to see is that we've got to take the animal's perspective, which goes back to the shaping lab where everybody gets to be the subject. And you find out that when you have a bad trainer, it's no fun. When you have a trainer who's confusing or unclear, it's no fun to be the subject and not know what somebody wants you to do and then feel pressured to figure it out. So just because I'm throwing cookies at him while I'm training doesn't mean I've made it a good thing for my animal.
Yeah.
So we need to think about that.
Training helps you understand your animal's body language.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way they can communicate with you.
It is, yes. That's that. And we start to see the little tiny signs. If you start to see it really early, as Amy said, when's the best time to do something? In the beginning, before it's a bad. So if I start to see like twitching or the ears go back, just a little thing, that tells me change what you're doing there. Don't keep doing that. We call them tells, like in gambling. My dogs have tells. They tell me when they're unhappy. I need to listen to that, and I need to then do something to change it when I see it happen. And I actually have got some good pictures for a book that I'm doing, where we're doing some procedures to our animals, like restraining them, and you get the what we call whale eye, where you only see the whites of the eyes and tongue sticking out. Now, my dog is letting us do this. She's not going to bite us, but she's clearly saying, I do not like this. I am not comfortable, which tells me it needs a lot more reinforcement, and I need to go back and make it easier, because that form of restraint, which is what we were doing a picture for our book, form of restraint is very uncomfortable for her. So I can keep doing it and say, well, she's fine, or I can actually go back and build it up more and make it more comfortable for everybody.
Yeah, and that's where behavior doesn't lie.
No, it does not. They always tell us exactly how we're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't like it, but they do tell us how we're doing.
Well, you got to get to dinner.
I'm supposed to go to dinner, yes.
Let me tell you two things before you guys go. Number one, take a look at Fenzi Dog Sports Academy.
Yep.
Their camp for next year, their online classes, where you can find it where? FenziDogSportsAcademy.com. And if you put in FDSA, you should come up with that. And we're pretty big. We're a pretty big operation now, so there's a big online presence. Big online presence, and there was 350 people. Well, this is still going on. It won't be done until tomorrow night.
Yeah, 3 days, 350 people. We've grown from about 200 to 350 in 4 years. And so now it's finding big enough facilities and enough instructors. But here we have 16 instructors. We have 60 sessions over the course of 3 days. And so, as I said in the opening, if you can't find something you're interested in, I don't know why you're even here, because there's so much range of what people can do, and we have fun. It's not serious. I say it's serious, but it's not serious. It's enjoyable. It's very fun. I was going to say, if you're ever looking at an instructor on the science of behavior, let me know. Right, we will definitely do that. We will do that. I think we like to branch out a little bit here and there. So, there are things to be done. But the second thing Deb and I wanted to talk to you about is, don't forget about our October workshop that we're doing together, October 13th and 14th. It'll come up before we know it. It's kind registration is open and seats are selling. Okay, we definitely selling nicely. I'd love to see a nice limited group seating. Of people. Yeah, nice group of people who want to become better trainers. So you want to work on your skills, because it's not about your animal. It's, if you're a good trainer, whatever animal you interact with is going to be better, and you're going to get what you want. So it doesn't matter what species you're training. It doesn't matter even how much experience you've had. We'll help give you the experience. And if you're very experienced, we will challenge you. And we will push you. We will push you to be even better. I've gotten a lot better with my experience at Laura's with the different species. And a lot of it I'm applying back to dogs. She's here learning about dogs, and she's applying it to her animals and to the different species that she works with. So there's so much cross information here. That's important. If you think, oh, well, I only train this one animal, so I don't need to go to this workshop, you're missing out on a lot, I think. Right. Be a well-rounded trainer. Some people would say, why am I at Fenzi Dog Sports Academy? I don't compete. Exactly. But I'm just like, I'm here to learn. I'm just to open my eyes and learn more about mechanics, fine-tuning, whatever, and I can learn that through other species I don't regularly work with. Yeah, you can learn by seeing a lot of different instructors as well. And so I like that we both come from different perspectives, yet we still have the same basic philosophy. And we work well together. We have fun. Yeah. We always have fun when we work together. So I'm looking forward to getting, pulling together the weekend and working together. And I have to come to her house just because I want to, in order to get our presentations. Yeah, we'll have a lot of there. Well, we'll talk a little bit about theory. I think we're going to have a lot more application kinds of things. And I've got some great ideas. Like, Deb's going to come up to the center again for maybe a weekend before October. Oh, yeah. We're going to run some. Try and stop me. I've got some. I have Rocky. Exactly. I will be at your door. It's like a lure. I have your lure. It's like, come and you can see Rocky. Just send me a picture and I'm there.
Well, you better go before they come out and throw something at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
I better.
guys. Thanks for watching another episode of Coffee with the Critters.
Thank you.
Join us next Sunday, I believe. It's next Sunday, June.
It's June.
It's not 10th, is it?
That might be. Close to it.
Because I know June 10th we're
looking at my
interviewing
phone.
Terry James.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, from Brilliant Canine.
Canine.
I can't even from my calendar. I'm so tired. Hang on. I will tell you what the date is. Next Sunday is June 10th.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's what will be next
Right.
June.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Next-
That'll be a good interview. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
She's coming back up too, so she wants to see you.
Okay.
So
We will
maybe
do
we can
that.
figure something
We
out.
will make that happen.
You guys have a great Saturday. Have a
Enjoy
great
your
rest of your
weekend.
weekend, and we'll see you next Sunday. You'll see Deb back on here with Coffee with the Critters soon. All right.
Thanks everybody
Take care.
for coming.
See you
Bye.
guys.